Welcome to the Story a Day podcast. This is Julie Duffy, encouraging you to be a writer today, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie here from Story a Day, and it is that time of year again when everyone's talking about NaNoWriMo. Are you writing a novel this November? Are you taking part in NaNoWriMo? What's your NaNoWriMo username? I love NaNoWriMo, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it can feel like if you're not writing a novel in November, that somehow you're not a real writer. And I want to encourage you to, not feel like that, obviously. It's not a conscious thought usually for us, but it can seep in. But I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about the sort of larger question of how you decide which parts of the writing life are for you, what opportunities you should take advantage of, and what things that come along are just kind of shiny objects that are luring you off the path that will help you become the writer you want to be and make the progress that you want to make. For years and years, I was lured by NaNoWriMo, but I knew I wasn't ready. I wasn't capable of writing a novel because I wasn't writing regularly enough. And for me, short fiction comes more easily. And I knew that taking part in NaNoWriMo would end up discouraging me because I would start out with this blaze of glory and then I would fall away and I would get lost. And I just, for me, I knew it would be more damaging. And until I had actually run the first Story a Day May, I didn't even think about taking part in NaNoWriMo seriously. And after the first Story a Day May, I realised that surely writing the same story all month would be easier than writing 30 different stories. So I gave it a try and, it went pretty well. But that was my thought process for my first NaNoWriMo. But what's going to happen throughout the rest of the year is that opportunities are going to come along, and I'm going to throw some of them at you myself. There are courses, there are coaching calls, there are conferences, there are classes and workshops and all these things which sound amazing. And now that so much of it is online, it is incredibly easy for us to access all that stuff, and it becomes even more tempting. There were two great conferences this weekend. There were probably more, but there were two great conferences this weekend that I would have loved to go to, and they were online. So I almost had no excuse not to go to them, except that I have a process for deciding where my focus goes, and sometimes that process has to take into account the fact that I have a family and, a spouse and people that I want to spend time with, and I need to take time off and I need to read books as well as try and write them. And all of this stuff plays into my decision process. So what I thought I would do is talk a little bit this week about how I go through the process of deciding what to take part in. And it's not always rational, it's not always this logical, but, if you're feeling overwhelmed or indecisive, or if you find that you're not making enough progress in your writing and you're wondering why, and you're taking advantage of all of these opportunities to learn about writing that are taking you away from your writing, here's a process you can potentially use or adapt to your own preferences. So the first thing I think it's important to do when faced with an opportunity to figure out whether it really is an opportunity or a shiny object is to assess what you're trying to achieve and what you really need. So I've put together this article, by the way, at storyaday.org/shiny objects, and there's a workbook and a flowchart there, but I'm going to talk you through some of the process just now. So if after listening to this, you want to hold on to any insights that you had while listening to this podcast, pop over to the blog, download that workshop, the workbook and that flowchart so that you have them next time you run across a shiny object, okay? So part one, assess. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve right now? And what is the block for you? If you are looking to learn about something, go to a class, take a workshop, sometimes it can just be an unusual opportunity that you can't pass up. Your favourite author is running a workshop. It's a one-off. It's 1 hour. You can't pass that up. You don't have to worry too much about that. But if someone's, talking about a 4-week commitment or a 6-week commitment or joining a group or spending a weekend somewhere, is that helping you solve something that's a problem in your writing, or is it just a distraction? Is it just an interesting opportunity? And is it going to move you forward in your writing, or is it just another way to procrastinate? And you have to be honest with yourself and try not to be judgy about it, but be honest. Am I just avoiding my writing, or am I solving a specific problem that's going to propel me forward and make me write more and better? And, is it going to accelerate your writing after the pause you take to learn? Or is it going to overwhelm you with just more information? So once you've figured out what it is that you really need, and you've sort of separated yourself from the FOMO of everyone's doing this thing, everyone's going to this thing, I want to go, I must go. Think about what you really need in your writing right now. And once you've thought about that, ask yourself the harder question of what resources do you already have on hand that might solve that problem for you? Maybe in a less sexy way than taking part in the big challenge that everyone's taking part in, or going to the conference that everyone's going to. The slightly less sexy way of thinking about it is, what do I have on my shelf already that could solve this problem? If you have 2 shelves of books on the writing craft, maybe open some of them and look up the index for character conflict, or the muddy middle, or character arcs, or dialogue, or whatever it is that you're struggling with. Maybe there's a section on mindset or motivation that you actually have on your shelf already. Maybe you took an online course and didn't finish it, or you did finish it and you made loads of notes, and in those notes you have the answer already to the thing that is stalling you. What resources do you have already that you could use in the treasure chest that is your pile of paper and your hard drive? And then sometimes when we're tempted to do a thing, join a thing, read a new thing, we really do need that boost. We need that little step away from the work, and it can reinvigorate us. But sometimes it's just distraction from the difficult work of writing, and from the difficult work of telling ourselves that we have the right to write, that we have the ability to write, that we can get through this difficult scene, that we can connect those 2 scenes in some way, that we can finish the story, that we can send out the thing. And so if you suspect that the reason you are thinking about joining, reading, signing up for the new thing has anything to do with lack of confidence, I would like you to spend some time looking at all of the stuff that you are already good at. And I don't just mean in writing. I mean in your life, right? You're a capable, functioning human being, and you are able to do things in your life. And I think it's worth taking a moment to assess that and celebrate that. For example, are you the kind of person who puts together groups of friends? When you introduce your friends from separate spheres of your life to each other, do they go off and have fascinating conversations together? Do they end up being friends? That's a skill, and it's a transferable skill. You can use it in your writing to create characters. So take a moment to look at that part of your life and say, you know what? I'm really good at that. Because we don't get motivated by feeling bad, mostly. unless you have been, I don't know, maybe if you went to boot camp and you've been conditioned to, or you're one of those people who was raised to, rally against adversity. But most of us, we do better work when we feel better. So think about the things you're already good to. Are you good at organising? Excellent. Good for you. Then you have a leg up on those of us who are not. Because if you decide to make progress in your writing, you're going to be able to organise yourself a schedule of work, revision, learning, meeting people. Are you the kind of person people trust to set up dates and to organise the social life of your group? Great. That probably means that you're the kind of person who in your writing life can meet another writer and say, hey, you know what, let's get together for some accountability writing dates, or, I'll email you my stuff at the end of the week. So look at what you already do well in your life. Are you already a person who is happy alone in their room with no one else around? Excellent. Writers need that. So look at the totality of your life and take a little time to celebrate yourself and your unique gifts, because feeling better about ourselves helps us give ourselves permission to write. Writing, part of writing is just writing to amuse ourselves and writing to get the thoughts out of our head. And part of it is selfish and it's cathartic and that's wonderful. But part of writing is understanding that you are reaching out to other people and you are writing stories that will make other people feel connected, feel less alone, feel heard, feel seen. And that's when it can get a little challenging for some of us. The imposter syndrome kicks in, the who am I to have anything to say kicks in. So take a moment to look at the totality of your life and all the things that you're already good at. You're not a hopeless case. You're really good at a bunch of things. So feel good about yourself before you sit down to write. And then take a moment to look at your writing life and think about when does writing feel easiest? Where are you? Who are you with? What kinds of stories are you writing? What are you writing them on or with? Is it a fountain pen? Is it a laptop? Is it a word processor, or one of those is it a typewriter? Or one of those typewriter replica word processor hybrid things? What makes writing easier for you? And focus on that, because we have a tendency to focus on the things that aren't working. And if you can focus on the things that are working, then you're going to be able to make smarter decisions. And you're going to be able to give yourself permission to work. And you're going to be able to figure out, do I really need to spend November writing a novel, or May writing short stories? Or do I need to take that workshop or that class? Do I want to take that workshop or that class, or buy that new craft book? And you're going to be able to do it from a position of understanding where you really are, rather than from a position of, I wish I were a different person, or I wish I was something else. Because when we think about embarking on a new challenge, buying a new craft book, taking a new class, it's not really about the class or the group or the challenge. It's about who you hope you'll be at the end of it. So what can you do? Is there anything else you can do to become that person that you hope to be? If you want to be, if you imagine yourself after a month of writing a novel as someone who effortlessly sits down to write every day, that is what you're really after. It's not that you want to have a 50,000 word novel by the end of next month. You want to build the habit of someone who sits down to write, and someone for whom it is inevitable that you will always be working on something in your fiction. And then once you understand what it is that you really want, and you've assessed what resources you already have in your life, and you've taken a moment to look honestly at your skills and your talents and your strengths, then you can make a smart decision. And it might be, hell yes, I'm going to take part in NaNoWriMo. Hell yes, I'm going to sign up for that new course. Hell yes, I'm going to buy that new book. Or it might be, hell no, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. And both of those are great. If you're somewhere in the middle, keep digging. Keep figuring out what it is that you really want, what it is that you really need. And then you can do your best work from your best place. So, if any of this resonated with you and you're sitting there thinking, yes, this makes total sense and I don't want to forget this, come over to the blog storyaday.org/shiny-objects. Get the workbook, get the flowchart, and keep it handy, because you're on board with me today. But 2 months from now, when the next opportunity comes along, you're going to be tempted to be swept along with the crowd and the FOMO. And I want you to have a tool that you can turn to and you can say, oh yeah, I've got that work, I've got that flowchart. Let me just look at that flowchart and see if I'm joining this thing for the right reasons. And you might be, and that's wonderful. Or you might be able to look at the flowchart and go, oh, you know what? I don't need this right now. Maybe I'll catch it next time. Or you might say, I don't need this at all. I'm going to go do my work now. Whatever it takes to get you making consistent progress. And maybe it's the shiny thing. Maybe the shiny object is an opportunity, or maybe it's just a shiny object. That's what I have for you this week. I hope that you are writing. We have some wonderful writing prompts at Story a Day from the last month. There's a guest prompt from Marta Pellerine Bacon, who is a long-term Story a Day writer, and there's some other writing prompts from this month as well. All of the articles this month have been about how you can make writing inevitable, how you can write with ease, how you can become that relaxed, happy, fulfilled writer that you really want to be. And none of it is about making you feel bad about where you are. It's about, all of it is intended to inspire you to think about what you really want and how to get there. So come over to Story a Day, poke about, have a read, and let me know what's going on and what you're thinking about. Leave a comment, and most of all, keep writing. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.